the current presidential administration put out a new executive order around homelessness. Those of us who are in this business know that it was a misrepresentation of everything we know about the challenges that people are experiencing out there. Rather than giving us more resources, we're just gonna throw everything in the air and then force us to play a Tetris game at high speed, trying to figure out how to stack these little pieces and not hurt people who were hurt already.
The majority of the people that are being injured are the mentally disabled. It's baby boomers, it's grandmas, it's children.
Changing things overnight has all kinds of unintended consequences, not just for the people that we're trying to help, but the people that are doing the helping. Why would we want to make their job harder? They're doing good work. You guys are doing good work. You're transforming lives. Why do policymakers want to make it harder? Nobody wants to see people on the streets. Nobody.
Well, no, but how many policymakers actually are asking us?
Well,
Okay.
now
No, that's another
now we're
subject.
getting deep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Lewis with Imagine Marketing, and we are joined by Pastor Scott, who is the founder and CEO of Matthew's Hope, as well as Brian Postlewait, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida. This podcast is produced, filmed, and edited by John Burkett with Imagine. Welcome to this week's episode of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, presented by Imagine Marketing. At Imagine Marketing, we put in the extra effort to craft a tailored strategy for success. Book a free consultation today. In this episode, we will be talking with Brian about the work that the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida does and how it relates to the efforts and mission of Matthew's Hope. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Can you start by giving people a big picture overview of what the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida is and does?
Sure. Well, as everyone I think knows, homelessness is a big concern in our community as it is across the country. There's 400 organizations like Homeless Services Network, I'll call it HSN from here on out, across the country that are kind of like air traffic controllers. So here in Central Florida, we have Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties.
Okay.
We have multiple different providers and organizations that are working to try to combat and end homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to help them work together.
Nice.
And we try to help them collaborate and to utilize best practices as well as share data in a way to kind of build the case that homelessness is not good for our community. But the other thing is that the federal government, the state government, local governments need to put money into the system. And so in kind of helping create a system of care, then we end up managing a lot of those funds as grants. And then we manage them in a fair and democratic way as best we can. And then work to kind of build the case and make sure that we're making a difference.
How great is that? And I understand there is a poem you wrote recently that you'd like to share with our audience. Do you want to do that now?
I can.
Perfect.
And this poem really is, and see, I already lost it.
That's great.
I wrote this because recently we've had a lot of changes in the homeless sector. Not only the new Florida statute, which I know you talked a lot about, that really is working to criminalize homelessness. We've seen a lot of people in the last couple of years getting arrested for doing nothing but not having a roof over their head.
Yeah.
But also, we recently in the summer, the current presidential administration put out a new executive order around homelessness that really, those of us who are in this business know that it was a misrepresentation of everything we know about the challenges that people are experiencing out there. And they have now codified it in a new funding authorization. So this community gets about $25 million from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And they have completely collapsed that old system and have done it overnight. And so we can have lots of conversations about how we all work to end homelessness. But I think in any business, like changing things overnight has all kinds of unintended consequences, not just for the people that we're trying to help, but the people that are doing the helping, the organizations and the systems that have been built over years.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. And now we are left to pick up the pieces and try to figure out how to go forward. So this launch.
Before you read,
Yeah.
I'm going to just throw something at you that just because it made me think of something when you were talking, was one of the unintended, or they certainly didn't. I always, when we do something in Matthew Soap, we know that when we drop the stone, it's going to splash. We want to know what the ripple effect is.
Yeah.
And then we shift because something's felt really good. And then all of a sudden you go, we got to go this way or that way.
Yeah.
We used to know where every predator was, every sexual predator. The police knew where they were at. We knew where they were at.
Yeah.
Guess what?
We don't know where they're at.
They're scattered now. Okay.
Absolutely.
So now what I tell people is, no, before they were maybe, not my neighbor, not my backyard. No, before they were in your neighborhood, now they're in your backyard.
Yeah.
So those cheering that on, I just want to throw that out there that this is one more thing. Whether it was not thought of, unintended consequence, that's a biggie. And from a kid that's been molested, that's a biggie to me. I want to know where those folks are at.
Yeah.
Okay. So go on, but I just thought I'd share.
And it's not just the people that are sex offenders. It's everybody else that we are working with.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get them off the streets.
Right. But you got to find them.
You got to find them. And you got to go deeper in the woods.
Yeah.
And there's alligators in Florida.
Yes.
I'm not from Florida, and I don't play with alligators. the tortoises, I'm good with.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the alligators, the snakes, no.
But it's true. They're deeper, and it's gotten less comfortable sending people out to those areas. And it's also what's happening is everything that we're trying to do to make sure they're connected with services. It's 90 times harder than it was just over a year ago.
Yeah.
We do what I call homeless hunts now. We used to know, okay, I go here, I go here, I go here. Now it's, okay, everybody be watching. Oh, okay, here's where a group is over here. They won't be there tomorrow, but they're here today. So don't want to stop.
I mean, and we're still riffing a little bit, and I'll get to the poem in a minute, but you guys are really good at what you do.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We have a lot of fantastic providers in this community. And every day they are working to get people off the streets and to a place of healing and transformation. The Coalition for the Homeless, which is the largest shelter in our community, they move 2,500 people out of homelessness every year. They only have 500 beds. That means they're turning those beds over. That means they're helping people.
Yeah.
Why would we want to make their job harder?
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing good work. You guys are doing good work. You're transforming lives. Why would policymakers want to make it harder? Nobody wants to see people on the streets. Nobody
but how many policymakers actually are asking us?
Well,
Okay.
now you're down. Now
No, that's another
we're getting deep. But this is this is
I do want to hear his poem.
and I wrote this in this is a bit of self-care, and I think all of us are trying to.
That's exactly when I read it.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I felt.
We need to do some healthy self-care. Some of us, sometimes we're not.
Yeah.
But so here we go. We'll see. There are days when the numbers lean heavier than they should. When the dashboard carries more grease than any spreadsheet ought to hold. Beds erased, budgets carved thin, whole lives reduced to line items rearranged by people who never knelt close enough to hear the tremble of someone's dark night. And some mornings, before the sun has even made it up its mind, the inbox blooms with small heartbreaks, each one arriving faster than our capacity to meet it. We whisper to ourselves, barely audible beneath the hum of it all, is the ground shifting faster than we can root? But then A familiar voice calls out our name from across the street. A hardly recognizable man startles with resurrection surprise. A mom sends a photo of her child wearing a backpack that didn't exist the year before. A man who once lived in the shadows steps into your office, cradling his keys with the reverence of someone holding a thin slice of salvation. And then hard things don't disappear, but the sharpness softens, as if mercy has placed a steady hand on the edge of the frame and told it not to shake. This work is not clean. It leaves splinters, it leaves bruises, it asks for more than is reasonable. And more often than not, it asks for it again tomorrow. It demands hope without proof, patience without pace, love inside systems that were engineered for efficiency long before they ever tried to remember compassion. Still, here we are, choosing again to stay in the tension, to hold the line, to bend the world one imperceptible degree towards shelter, towards safety, towards home. And someday, when the wind's quiet, and someone finally asks how this work managed not to break us, we will say the truest thing we ever know. It didn't break us because we didn't. We kept stepping forward. Even when the rules changed, we kept insisting on dignity. Even when the systems insisted on disruption, we kept believing in the possible that looked impossible right up until the moment it wasn't.
Wow.
And now you know why I love him.
Oh,
I shared with our producer, John, before you got here, I said, there's things, and I shared with you before we started taping. And I said, there's times in the past over the years that not so much I disagreed with you so much as I disagreed with some of the philosophies and thinking of HSN and what have you. And, but it came to recognize over the last few years in particular that our hearts beat. They're in sync with each other, and our desire to want to leave better than we came, our desire to really see the light come back on in people's eyes. And all kidding aside, I love you, my friend, because you have rocked my world in ways that few people have, in a very positive way. And we're able to, in your poem, put into words. Someone said to me when they saw it, I could have wrote it. And I go, that's why I want Brian here and using this platform as we can to reach those out there, because my hope is that people will listen to things like that and the word of that and understand it does. We talked about this in some earlier podcasts we've done. We talked about the splinters and being immersed in dysfunction and trauma and crisis day after day after day. And it cannot help but leave a mark on you, and how you got to try to figure out how to get back up the next day and do it all over again. And that kind of stuff certainly gives me hope, and I hope that people listen to. And I'm hoping that poem somehow gets out there. I'm going to help push it out there, but it gets out there, because I don't think for those of us that are in the trenches that anybody will ever word it any better than what you do.
Wow.
So thank you for doing that. And I'm glad you were able to share that with us.
Love you too, brother. You could have written that poem. I was you in another life. Before I came here to Orlando, I lived in Vancouver, Canada, and ran an organization, a very entrepreneurial, innovative organization like Matthew's Hope. And we were digging it out every day. For some reason, when I moved here, I got into the system work. I went up to the end of the air traffic control room. It's because somebody has to be there. And somebody's got to make sure the planes are landing and not crashing into each other and getting to the places they need to go. And I really see that as my work now. I'm delighted to do it. It's frustrating as hell about, I just the stuff that we see. The stuff that you see maddens you. The stuff I see maddens me. But I'm so grateful to be in this work with some amazing people. Just with my team this morning, and we were strategizing how we were going to move hundreds of disabled people, who many of whom had been homeless for 10 years or more, had multiple disabilities, and now we have to move them out of their homes.
Yeah.
Where are they going to put their stuff? The administration wants them to go into transitional housing now, which transitional housing is a great intervention for some people, but for some people it doesn't work.
Well, how about there's not enough of it either?
Well,
Let's just assume we could do it. Okay. Yes, it's not the answer. It's a piece of the answer, but this whole idea that you just move them from here to here, it's like, no, there doesn't exist.
Yeah, no,
There is already full.
We're just carving up the pie in another way. The truth is, and we can have a philosophical difference about how you serve people experiencing homelessness, and we can talk about homelessness. It's all different types of people moving into homelessness, and it requires all kinds of different interventions. We could talk about different philosophical approaches to different subpopulations, but the truth is that we're successful a lot of the times at helping people heal, and helping people transform. And now, rather than giving us more resources, we're just going to throw everything in the air and then force us to play a Tetris game at high speed, trying to figure out how to stack these little pieces and not,
while you're being shot at,
and not hurt people.
Yes.
People who were hurt already.
Yeah. It's almost like it's re-damaging, reopening the wounds.
Oh man.
You realize that you want to hope that it's not just because people are heartless. That's my hope. I just so much want to hang on to that, Brian, that it's not because, but I don't know that that's true. But what I also do is it's certainly thoughtless, because, this whole permanent supportive housing, do I believe there's people in the system that have taken advantage and what have you? Absolutely. However, just like when the SNAP benefits got tied up, are there people that are taking advantage and scamming that system? Absolutely. But the majority of the people that are being injured by this stuff are the mentally disabled. And I'm not even talking about the full-blown mentally ill people. That's a whole nother category. I'm just talking about disabled functionally, physically, or mentally. It's baby boomers, it's grandmas, it's children. There's so much wrong right now that it's like this massive perfect storm, but it's a storm that we were already in. But for some reason, someone thought it was a good idea to see if we could ratchet it up 10 times, 100 times. And what Brian's talking about is literally, with the change in this funding, there's people that have been in housing for a long period of time that are literally going to be put back on the streets because they're talking about transitional housing, okay, which we do a lot of, and we've done it very effectively. It's not the answer for everybody. But even then, it doesn't exist. We're talking about moving people from A to B, but B does not exist. And so what they're going to do is be on the streets. What's that going to do? It's going to create more people bitching and moaning that they're seeing homeless people. And a lot of those people, they say they're high, they're drunk. No, they're disabled. And if you don't know what you're looking at, it can look very much the same.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. The way that we've been working over the past 10 years, and we've been trying to focus on, in a very arduous process, the most vulnerable people. We actually work really hard at making sure that we serve the next person in line that is closest to dying on the street.
Yeah.
And so, we're very particular about that. We have rules that the community comes up with together, a process, and it looks like a bureaucracy. but it does ensure that it's not just a first come, first serve kind of thing, that we are trying to look out for the folks that most of the people in those permanent supportive housing programs and and really we should say it's housing for homeless people with disabilities.
Mhm.
Um, all of them are disabled. Uh, 60+% of them have more than one disability.
Mhm.
Many of them have 3 disabilities, and they aren't going. Most of them, maybe there might be some. Most of them aren't going to succeed in a 2-year transitional housing program, and that we can expect them that they're going to go back to work and are living. And there's lots of misunderstandings, and I understand. People don't understand. Everybody that's in those programs pays 30% of their income in rent. They're paying what they can in rent. And as we all know, it's expensive now to live in Central Florida.
Huge.
Our rents have gone up 40% in the last 5 years.
Well, and then
And
you
now
got
we
the
have-
qualifying issue too.
And we have elderly people falling out of their homes now. We got, I mean, it's anyway, I'll stop
You,
Okay.
there.
you don't. Here's the thing: you're absolutely right, and I think that part of the reason we developed this podcast was to try to do our best to try to those who desired to be educated, that we would educate them into what the truths of homelessness really look like. What's the face of homelessness really look like?
Yeah.
That guy on the corner with the sign, that's not him. That's not who we see every day. But there's also this belief that shelters are free, that people are living free and permanent. No, it's supportive. It's part of, okay? It's because that way, because there's no way for them to be able to, we're not going to, I tell people all the time, Matthew Soap is a catch and release program. We catch you, we clean up there's medical issues, there's legal issues, there's whatever they're going on. It takes about a 2-year period, right? And then we release you knowing that you're independent and self-sufficient. There is no independent and self-sufficient with the elderly, and there damn sure isn't for the physically and or mentally disabled. And like Brian says, I say it that way because some are physically, some are mentally, and some are both, and some have various combinations of those things. And the bottom line is, people say, look at that guy over there. Why is he working? Spend 3 days with him. You'll see why he's not working. Yes, he looks able-bodied. Everything looks fine until it's not.
Right.
Okay. Or as long as he's just sitting there, you don't realize that he can barely make it to the door. Or you don't realize that he is so mentally disabled that he has good days and he has bad days to where he doesn't even know where he's at.
Right.
Yeah.
And the general public, for some reason, doesn't understand that. And then when the false narrative is being sold from Washington on down, and certainly in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what happens is you're sitting there going, well, I've got all the data right here that shows us that's not true. And people said, well, but they said it.
So a short little history lesson. This whole idea of housing people and providing wraparound supportive services around them started in Boston by a guy named Sam Sedaris. And he was taking people who were very severely mentally ill in Boston and putting them in housing and providing wraparound supportive housing. This is back in the 80s.
Okay.
Back when we were just trying to figure out when we had massive increase in homelessness. And he was successful. 85% of the people he put into housing stayed in housing. The problem is when those people are on the streets, they're in our jails, they're in our emergency rooms, they're in our shelters, they're on the streets dealing with the police, the fire department, the general public. And the truth is, it was costing us way more as a society to leave them on the streets in and out of these systems than it was to put them in housing and to provide them with somebody who was there to care. And that was the whole idea. And so fast forward 20 years, the federal government finally figured out it was losing money. And they said, we're going to change the game. We're not going to actually give you more money, but we're going to change the game. And they changed the game. And so every community in the country started working on this housing focused strategy. And we actually started solving homelessness from very, very sick people. At the same time, the cost of housing is rising. What we know now is every time the cost of housing goes up $100, homelessness goes up 9%. That's the Government Accountability Office. They say that. I don't know if it's exactly right, but I know that it's true, whatever happens. And so we've done that. We've been very successful. Now, I would say where we've made a mistake, we've so focused on those chronically homeless, very sick people that I think everybody in the country thinks every homeless person is chronically homeless, sick, mentally ill, out of their mind, and they're scared. But the truth is, if you have 100 homeless people, 65 of them you never see. You never see them. You don't even know they're homeless. They're in and out of their cars. They're couch surfing. They're the kids that your kids go to school with.
Right.
Like only about 30 to 35 do we actually know because we have data on them. And only about 6 of the 100 are continuously homeless, chronically homeless.
Right.
And so we focused on those 6, which is a good thing. It's saving us money as a society. But all those folks that you guys are helping through transitional housing, your catch and release strategy, we don't have a funding source other than places like Matthew's Hope that are scrimping and scrapping away trying to raise money to do that. We don't have something for them. But now we decided we're going to change the game again, and we're going to serve those folks that are, need a catch and release program, and we need a catch and release program. We need more catch and release.
But at the
sacrifice of those very ill people who are just going to die on the streets.
Yeah. And everybody who sees them on the streets are going to be calling the police because, again, it's going to be, they're going to say, well, first off, they must be drunk or high. Right. I saw where someone took a picture of a guy the other day, sleep on the side of the road in Cocoa. And no one's checked and see if maybe he's dead. Okay.
Yeah.
But they take his picture and they're making some complaints about it. And what I said is, I said, can you imagine being so exhausted that you could sleep next to a major highway and not even be woken up? Because that's part of what's happening now is this new law is some of these people being woken up 2 and 3 times a night and they're exhausted. Now you take away proper rest.
Yeah.
They've already got lack of proper nutrition. God forbid, if they've got some kind of mental health issue, you just injected it with steroids. Okay.
This morning, I was at Starbucks, and this woman, bless her heart, she's got to be 75 years old. She walks into my Starbucks where I'm at every morning. She sits down at the table. She's got a bandana around her head, and she's putting paper towels on the table and on the seat because she's so considerate of Starbucks. She doesn't want her filth to get on the wood Starbucks table. And then
crazy.
She just fall asleep because she's been up all night. She got into Starbucks when it opened. She bought coffee and she's been outside all night.
Yeah.
This woman needs to be in a retirement center. Not battling it on the street, And is there a mental health issue there? There might be. I don't know. I didn't have a chance to talk to her, but does it matter?
That was the question. Does it matter? And here's the other thing I've said too, is I've said this, out of my own homelessness. I said, if you didn't have a mental health issue before you were homeless, you will once you become homeless. Because it changes you inside in a way that even I've been off the streets now for 40 years.
Preach.
And I am still looking over my shoulder.
Woo!
Okay. I'm still looking over my shoulder. Man. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. No matter how good my life gets, I'm waiting for, and I joke about it at times as it's almost a self-defense mechanism. I say, my retirement program is, hey, isn't it that guy Scott that helped those homeless people?
Man.
That's homeless again? We ought to invite him in. And the problem is I don't know that anybody's going to invite me in. Because again, you watch those of you that aren't watching, that just listening, Brian was sharing this picture of this woman, and literally what you find is that many of these homeless people are so considerate that they will I've seen them put newspapers down to sit on. I've seen them do that, the paper towel thing. And then they're going to make sure that they're not doing that so they don't pick up something. They're doing that in consideration for the person that's going to sit down behind them. Okay. Now, the sad part is you're going to find, whether it's Starbucks or some other business, a lot of these folks do try to be compassionate towards this until the customer complains.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens is if God forbid they do have a mental health issue, then it turns into something that then people say, well, see, I told you they're all sick, or they're all drug addicts, or all this. And it's like, no, you just took someone who's exhausted and they do have some issues, but now you're telling them that you're not good enough to be in my establishment.
Right.
Because that's what they're hearing.
Right.
Can I go back to something you were talking about? You were talking about your own experience and mental illness and really self-medicating, right? Like, which one of us, who of us who has a stressful day doesn't go home and either get on their phone and doom scroll or
Have
have a glass of wine or sit in front of the TV and or veg away at a Netflix series or whatever as a way to like just make it through the world. If you were on the streets and you didn't have anything and you didn't have any families helping you, because that's what really happens. You know, this is true. It's like most of us would not survive without sharing housing with somebody. If I was sharing housing with my wife, I would not be living in the house I was in right now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so,
Especially now.
yeah, and so it's just it's a misnomer. Like, I mean, are you going to find people on the streets that have drug addiction and mental illness and criminal records and so on like that? Yes, but you know what? Almost everybody in this country who is addicted to drugs is housed. Almost everybody in this country who has a mental illness is housed. Almost everybody in this country who's unemployed, living in poverty, has a criminal record is housed. Even those sex offenders are freaking housed, right?
I know.
And so these things are not the causes of homelessness in and of themselves. They're vulnerabilities that predict who becomes homeless, because we have an unfair and broken housing system. We have an unfair and broken health system. We have family disorder. We have all those things. And so when you encounter that, you have these kind of vulnerabilities, you are susceptible to end up on the bench in your local park.
Mark, listen, I got to tell you something. I have said, and I will stand on this until the day I die. I said it last night when I spoke in Titusville. I said, we don't have a drug and alcohol problem. We have a mental health problem. Drug and alcoholism often is, and more so often, and I've been tracking this for a lot of years now, is a byproduct of becoming homeless. You're self-medicating. It's a byproduct of mental health. And I try to separate mental health from mental illness. I am, because of some of my diagnosis and trying to commit suicide years ago, I'm considered mentally ill. And there's people that know me well that would agree with that 100%. However, when I think of...
I'm glad you let me know that now, because now it's all making sense to me.
No, appropriate.
Yeah. But you look over there and you watch this guy who's babbling to himself, or last night, the guy who tried to fire the sheriff, he said, I am a United States Marine and I fire you. Okay. And Charlene's going, okay, that's mentally ill. So I always try to say we got mental health. That's something that we can quite easily address. And that's the bulk of them. And then we have mental illness, which isn't impossible to address, but we choose to spend money other ways.
Brian, Scott, that's a lot to unpack, and it's really, really good. Brian, do you mind coming back and we do another episode?
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Scott. And thank you all for watching, listening. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and come back because we have more to talk about with Brian.